Alright, some changes I've made to my sanding station, I guess I'll call it. I redid this T because I had those drops left over from my printer table. Then I redid that and I looked at my box that was holding it together. I decided to redo that as well. And I'll show you the only change that I made really was adding this little shelf and some cord relief here. Other than that, it's identical to my old one, almost to a T, I guess. So with the table in this position, I'm able to sand discs like this. I was doing it the other way with the belt vertical rather than horizontal, but if you let go of the disc and that belt was running away, this thing would just spin right off. So I think it might be a little safer to dimension it, I guess. I'll put it that way, dimension your piece, and then when you want to do your final sand, turn it around and do it that way. You know, and just lightly freehand it, I suppose. The other thing that I've got here is I made a screw advance that if I was running a larger diameter piece in here, I could use this T-nut and slide it in, and then it's got different positions that I can put the stud. But what it also gives me is the ability then to, once this is fastened to the end of the extrusion, you can see here I'm able to advance this with a wrench or my drill driver. And let me just show you here. This is nothing more than a piece of Delrin, black Delrin plastic. It's very, very hard stuff. And when you're cutting it, well, you really don't cut it, you kind of melt it. So you got to take really small bites. It drills and taps very nicely, but so now if I back this off, you can see that I can advance that pivot point to wherever I want. And like I said, I've got every probably 2.5 inches here. I can move that pin if I wanted to do. I could do up to 36. I believe I measured a little while ago about a 37-inch table. I can get this last point out here to about 37.5, or 37, I should say. So my pub table, which was 36 inches, this would have been nice to be able to sand that outside edge rather than doing it by hand, which I had to do. So that's that. I also have in here, you can't see it, but I've got I can take it out and show you. I've got a stop, so I could take and advance this up to my stop. You know, if I'm starting back, say a 16th, and I'm just rough dimension sanding like I was saying, then when I get to the point where I want to finish sand, there's my stop. And you know, get everything reasonably close. So this turned out really, really nice. I'm very impressed with the way this turned out. So I don't often do stuff like this, but if I had to, I now have that capability. So let me rearrange this and show you what else I've done for making this a little more versatile tool, I guess. Before I go, I'll show you these parts. So this is that Delrin. I've got 1/4 20 tapped here, and then these are 5/16 18, I believe, that just get screwed into the end of this 40 by 120 extrusion. So here's my long T-nut, and now you can see the spacing that I have here. This is a set screw in here of the ability to kind of a macro adjust it. And this is also 5/16. This is a 5/16 bolt with the end cut off. This one is just a double 1/4 inch one that I was using earlier. So then here's my stop. It's nothing more than a piece of that of this cut off with a set screw in it. And the beauty of that set screw is that it's the same size as my ball driver, 5/32, so it's a quick and easy adjustment with that. All right, before I clamp it down on the table, I just want to show you this. So now you can see what I did here for the cord relief. It works out really well rather than just having that bound inside the box. So I like that there. And then the other thing I did was I changed my hole here for the exhaust connection. It's now just a straight shot into that, and that's a lot better as well. The vertical exhaust is the same as the other one here, where you put the PVC in, turn it, bring it up, and then lock it in with this wooden block. And that keeps it from dropping. Okay, so that's that. What else here? I guess there really isn't too much else to show you. I put in this little shelf. I don't know why, but I did. Oh, I know why I did it. Because now when I lay it down, if I want to lay it down on this side, this gives me a resting spot here, so that I've got more contact with the table, and that worked out good. So now we'll lay it down, and now you can also see the value of this cord relief. The cord is coming out away from the piece rather than having it bound up in here like this, or away from the box I should say, and kind of being in the way. That's a lot less strain on that cord, and it's out of the way, which I really like. Now I've taken that long T-nut. I still left my pin in there for doing circle work, but with this bolt in there now, it acts like a pin, much like a router on your router table. I can come in here and start my work and then use it to push against to round over the corner, or put a slight radius on a piece of a corner, like this one here. I guess I did it here, so you can round it over, and that works out really well. The other thing I was doing earlier was, when I was doing this, I had my pin in let's see, where was, oh, I still had it turned the other way, but I was using my 1/4 inch pin. You'd have to imagine it was in the slot the long way, and I was doing it like this. But when that belt's moving, you're turning against the belt. These edges can get pretty sharp, so I think if I were doing this again, I'd use gloves to hold that work. And let's see, and the other thing I would do would be I'd turn this down to just 1 instead of the old frenetic 5. So that's that. Get these out of here. All right, that just took me a few minutes to set up, but what you can see, what I've got here is, I took my auxiliary fences there, 48 by 7, approximately 7, let's see here. Well, 7 3/4 slots are going to be about 1.25 inches from each end, and then about 1 inch from the top and bottom. Alright, that got away from me just a little bit there on that one cut. But otherwise it's nice and clean on both sides. With the slots, it gives me the ability to move this to, basically zero position to a max of, let me just tighten these up, and this is nothing more than a couple of quarter by 20 carriage bolts underneath here. And now I've got a max of about 5 3/4, a little over, that I could sand the edge of straight pieces. Let me grab something here. So now I could put this in here, change my fence till it just touches that. And this is one thing I'll make you aware of as well. So bring that up, tighten it down. Before, you can see how this is just deflecting here. Before I was pushing this up against, and that's probably a good 32nd of an inch more of room there. So I would put it up tight, tighten my fence, bring it back, run my piece, and what I was finding was that this edge right here along near the ends, about the last 3/4 of an inch, would tend to dip. And the reason for that is because of this right here. So as I'm coming in, it's out this way, but then when I get to the point where it tightened up on me, I'd sand a straight edge, right, until I got to the end. Then this would flex out again and take this off just a little bit. So I think that in the future I'll have to rely on just contacting this almost at the point where it just starts to deflect, and then running my piece, so I don't run the risk of removing too much material on the ends here. Right here on the end, you can see the little dip where it just falls off right there. You see what that gives me? That gives me a nice table to work with. I can take this one off if I want and use it as a freehand table. And plenty of capacity for that. It's nice and square. I've checked it. As square as I can measure off of a belt, I guess. So it won't ruin my squareness, I guess. And that's that. So I got double function out of these now. I can use them on my fence for tall work, or I can also use them as tables and be able to give myself an edge to work with, and I can slide it to any dimension I want out to there. And the other thing I could do, if I needed another inch or so, I could back this off and relocate my belt sander. So pretty versatile setup, I think. I've got the ability to micro advance it with this setup. My long T for different spacing as far as circles. I got a short one here for small stuff. I've got a stop for limiting how my depth of cut or my radius, and then a pin to pivot my work off of. When you're doing corner work like that. Thanks for watching.